You've heard all the buzzwords: culture, inclusive, diversity, ethnicity, cultural competence, bias, race, respect, global internationalization, etc., etc. We get that in theory. But what about in reality? What does that mean, really? And how do you do that? Where do we learn to interact with ourselves and others? Welcome to the Elements of Interaction. We look at 3 universal questions as we go throughout life, those we need to ask and answer as we engage personally and professionally in discovering what is culture and, more profoundly, what is our culture. By combining the results of the Elements of Harmony profile assessment and the information gathering from our circle of impact, which means our colleagues, our family, our friends, then we'll begin to be prepared to move forward toward productive transformation or change, and in developing our own sense of identity. With this 3-step formula, here we go. The first question is, who are you? Or who are we? Without knowing who we are, how will we know what to do with the next question, which is, where will you go? What needs transforming? And then the third question is, how? How will you get there? So let's dive in a little bit to the who are you. This is where we want to discover like a sense of deeper awareness of who and what and where we are in life. We learn to listen to ourselves a little bit. And this is also where we discover our 5 harmonies. And that's the harmonies that we want to use and support to basically harmonize all the different areas of our life. And then we look at leading principles. And those are the areas, like what guides us? How do we get through our day? What is that core DNA part of us? So looking at who are you, let's talk more about, this awareness. What is it that we notice when we're still? Like in that moment when you first wake up, before you're really totally cognizant, what are you aware of? How are you feeling? What's happening in your body? Do you notice the room around you? And then like when you go into a room, even if it's another room in your house or another place, a store, like what is that first initial reaction that you have to that location? That's awareness. Almost like as if you are watching yourself on a movie or in a movie. It's like you're outside of yourself, noticing how you are reacting. That's awareness. So let's reflect a little bit on some awareness building. Like, how can we really focus on what is our culture? Okay, so a couple of questions. Think about where your energy is going. Like, what is it you spend time on every day, all day? And then, now you can stop and write a list down. Highly recommended. Because the next thing you want to look at is what energy might actually need some transformation. Like, is all of our energy going toward productiveness or beneficial and supportive and harmonizing activities, or are we just simply being drained? I like to think of, I had this one cup for a while, and it was a just nice metal copperish looking cup. And then something, after a while, it started getting a lot of residue in the bottom, like the copper, the tin coating was dissolving, and then it just looked like rust and color. And I think, well, if I'm literally pouring my energy out everywhere I go, and then I look at this empty cup, and that maybe is representing my cup being poured out everywhere, and then I look at the bottom and it's just got toxic residue, and I wonder, is that what I'm still pouring out? Or is that what I'm trying to pour out when I feel empty and drained? So it's really important for us to think about what energy may need transforming so that we're not pouring from that empty cup. So now let's think about, who are we, or who are you? And this is where over the years I've developed the 5-part harmony, or the 5 essential harmonies for a fantastic life, right? So harmony number 1 is the wisdom of the foxtrot. And this is reflecting on our life experiences, not wisdom like as in aging, but wisdom as in reflecting on the experiences we've had from life, the insights we get from family members and our ancestors, understanding our traditions, understanding and reflecting on the structures that are in place in our lives. And we have a focus, kind of the body focus, if you will, is the mind. And so then also, when we're in or out of harmony with wisdom, it's like a polarity. And at one end of the polarity, we get kind of brain fog, and we're not thinking clearly. And on the other end of the polarity, it's like we're too rigid. We don't allow any flexibility for new thoughts or new thinking, if you will. And that's both ends, are like really scary to be on. So we want to find that sweet spot more in the middle, but realizing that both are there. One's not better than the other. They're just extremes. So let's look at our next harmony. And this is the salsa of empowerment, right? So you think about the dance salsa, and it's just vibrant, full of life, lots of empowerment. And we think here like those that are influencers for us. Interestingly enough, the salsa can be a very goal-focused and oriented person, right? And there is definitely a game changer going on with that person. And there's joyfulness, there's spontaneity, right? And you think about the music going on with the salsa, it's very much spontaneous. Yes, there's a structure underneath, but there's lots of movement, both for the dancers and the musicians. Okay, so then our focus here, our body focus, is actually the body for salsa. It's thinking about our health. How are we physically managing to live our life? And then the polarities, like when you're too extreme on either side of the harmony, when you become in disharmony with empowerment, you might on one end be stagnant, and on the other end you might just be a little too vigorous, like, wah, yeah, tone it down a little. So let's look at our next harmony. And this is the tango of expression. And here we're looking at, the tango is somewhat of a melancholy dance sometimes, but it's also very vibrant. So there's all kinds of expression that we need to experience in life. And we think of the tango, or the expressive one, as the negotiator, right? There's in a work setting, that negotiator is the one that's helping get things done. And also looking at, quick and easy decision making as you have to navigate around the dance floor. They can be a very passionate and focused person. And so now we look at the focus going on here, and this is our interactions, like how we're communicating and what we're communicating. And the polarity here in this element on one end is very toxic, like words spew out of your mouth that are just meh. And on the other end, we're looking at authentic. In other words, not authentic as the buzzword, but raw, like, when you're with your core, who you really are. And sometimes we push that authenticity a little too much. It's like, oh, look how authentic I am, right? So we want to find the healthy balance in the middle. Let's look at number 4. This is a favorite one for a lot of people, the creativity of the swing. And one that I found was left out of a lot of the other types of profile assessments and personality quizzes and those sort of things. So it's why even in the, the health dimensions, which is an area I spent a lot of time studying, where was the creativity? So, it was important to me that we add that because we are creative beings. We were created, we create, we recreate, we do all kinds of things that are creative. And this means not just that you're talented creative, but taking some everyday activity and making it unique to you, right? And so this is where this type of person has the innovation, that always generating ideas, can be very energetic, flexible, adaptable, and not flexible like, you can twist and turn, but flexible in your ideas and thinking, right? You're adaptable to change very easily. You're the type, you think of the music that goes with the swing, and it's early jazz. So it was taking the structure and the foundation of music, of classical music, and then playing with it. And same with the dance steps. There is a structure there, and then you play within that structure. So the focus here is getting that intuition, right? The creative sparks, if you will, connecting with the higher self. And the polarity is at one end we may be just still, different from stagnant, but just still. And on the other end we may be a little too flexible, right? Like too many ideas and we can never just focus on one. All right, so let's look at our 5th harmony. And this is the inspiration of the waltz, right? So you think of that very diplomatic, peacekeeping person. They're soulful. If you look at the dance of the waltz, it takes a lot of strength, actually, to look so effortless and so elegant. And so there's that inner strength that allows you to be that diplomat or that soulful person, right? So guess what? The focus here is on the soul, as in, what's really down inside, your core value system. And we look at the polarity here, and this is from emptiness, which is like you feel nothing, to joyfulness, which sometimes can be a little bit overbearing as well, right? So you want to find that happy balance in the middle. So those are our 5 harmonies. Now let's look at some reflection. So this is where we want to discover and kind of reflect a little bit about what are our leading or guiding principles. And this is where you think about what is your DNA level principle that is driving your actions and your passions and your values, right? What is that keeps you waking up every morning? And the next part of that question to reflect on is, who are you to your world, right? Not who are you supposed to be or who do they want you to be, but who are you to your world? Now let's look at where you are going. So here we want to determine, well, now that we know kind of who we are and where we are, we've got that baseline assessment. Now we can start looking at, well, what needs transforming? What do we want to transform? What kind of support or what types of transformations need our support? And then this next question is, who do I want to be? Right? We understood our core. Now we think about, who do I want to be on this planet, in this world, in this culture, if you will. So let's go a little deeper. When we reflect on who we are, what needs transforming? Again, look at where your energy is going and what is driving your values. Where are you going with all that? So now look at the support piece. What parts of my life need more attention? Am I satisfied with my diet, for example? Am I satisfied with my study skills? Am I satisfied with the types of relationships that I have? And I don't mean romantic relationships, but our interactional relationships, right? What needs help there? Or does anything need help there? What needs more attention? And then one piece that's really important when we look at making transformations or changes is, where do I need more accountability? Maybe we just need somebody to remind us to keep drinking more water or exercising more, or our study sessions. How can I help build in more accountability to my actions, into my personal culture? And then, what resources do I need or do I desire? Like, what will it take to get me there? Now let's look at, where are you going? Some more reflecting in this piece. So we asked that question, who do I want to be? And not for everyone else, but who do you want to be? Think about, what parts of your life, your culture are good. You've got your basic value system, but now it's like, what do you want that to look like? And that gets us to the next question, which is, what will my desired outcome look like? So take a moment there and really think about that. If you need to pause, write some stuff down, really, really think about, well, if this is who I want to be, what will that look like? What happens after that? And then the next piece of that is, how would that feel to be there? And then, what impact will that have on both myself and on others around me? Because sometimes when we really get down into that core and we realize we want to be the type of person who is living their best health or their ideal health, then the impact that may have on your friends and family is that you might have to give up some friends who are not supporting that for you. And there's an impact there. You might discover a whole new kind of friend or friendships, right? So think about, the consequences of each of our wants and desires. Now comes the third section is, how will you get there? And these are the activities that you need to put in place to get you there. The accountability that you need to put into place to keep you on that path. And the metrics, or the measurements, if you will, that help us measure our progress, right? Are we actually on that path? Because that's the part that helps us stay on the path, right? So let's look at those a little bit more. How will you get there, right? So we want to reflect on again, what will my desired outcome look like? How will that feel? What impact will that have on myself and others? So now, what actions will support us? What things do we need to put in place, like new habits maybe, or ways to break old habits, or things we hadn't thought of before? What activities will help support us on this journey? All right, and with those activities, yes, indeed, I have some activities for each of the 5 areas of harmony. So when you're in some disharmony with one or the other, you're too far on one end of the spectrum, you can add some activities like this that help you be able to harmonize again. All right. So with the wisdom of the foxtrot, we're looking at our posture. Well, our nervous system goes up and down our posture physically, right? So that's the communication center. When we're in poor posture, either from, looking at our phone all day or sitting or whatever it is, then the messages aren't getting back and forth, right? So it's really important to just take some time to feel your best posture. So breath can come through well, right? And then one thing I love to do is to stand in front of a mirror, maybe that has a picture of some of the relatives or people in the background. And look and imagine that those are all of your ancestors, all of the people that have come before you. And they're all right back behind you saying, you got this, you can do this. Yes, all of those things. Feel that for a minute and know that you're not alone, not at all. And then I like to think about intentions, right? Not an affirmation, because sometimes you're saying things that are not quite in alignment yet or not congruent yet, all right? So with an intention is you're choosing. These are some of the things I've learned from my mentors over the years. An intention says, I'm choosing to be in this frame of mind. So in this one, for wisdom, I'm choosing to welcome the experiences of my life as they provide me with the opportunity for wisdom. So salsa. Okay, we want to look at grounding exercises. And maybe that looks like, again, posture related, activities that help support us feeling connected, grounded, stable, right? You could even try to stand on one foot and feel how, ungrounding that is, and then plant both feet on the ground. Another thing that's really good here is actually go outside and stand on earth, like whether it's grass or in the forest or in the garden, something like that. Actually stand on earth, not on cement, not on a road, but stand barefoot and just feel what it feels like to be connected to the earth. And then of course rhythm, like practice different rhythms. Turn on some salsa music and feel how that allows your body to want to move a little bit. And then the intention here is I choose to be in sync with myself and my well-being as I live my life with purpose. Let's look at the next one. So the tango of expression. Now, of course, tango is trying to always navigate around the floor. You're making sure that you and your partner are not going to bump into anyone or anything on the floor. Sometimes you may have to really, change directions quickly. So we look around intentionally, right? Not just here, like so many of us are guilty of, and not just like zoned out, but truly look around the room and your surroundings intentionally. Notice what's around you. And then when you're in conversations with others, notice and observe the words that are not being said. and this is their body language. The researchers out there are telling us that 80 to 90% of our complete communication is nonverbal. So imagine what we're going through right now when we're having to wear masks, and like part of that nonverbal communication is being deprived, right? We're not able to actually see all the things that are not being said. So it's really important to observe this. Take time to look, watch. Like, are we standing like attentively? Are we defensively? How is that other person looking? And you're wondering, like, well, how does this help with our expression? Well, when we're aware of how our words are being received by the other's body language, now we have a whole nother layer and level of input and interpretation to guide our conversations and our interactions. All right, the intention here now is I choose to observe what may not be obvious as I express my authenticity. And now we look at creativity of the swing. So this some activities here are, tapping, not literally tapping, but there's a methodology and a modality called emotional freedom technique, where you're just tapping on various different points of the body as you're expressing things that may or may not be congruent to you. And what that's doing is essentially neutralizing the reaction to them. So when we need to be creative, if we're in emotional drama, we are not being creative. So helping tap out of that, essentially just moving out of that trapness, then allows us to then get back into a state of creativity. Looking at patterns, right? So by understanding what the patterns are, we can then decide what we want to do with those patterns, right? Do we keep them? Do we transform them? Do we dissolve them? All right? And our intention here is I choose to be in rhythm of life. I choose to be in the rhythm of life and do things differently with the blessings of my ancestors. Because it's really important to remember those people that came before you so you could exist. And all that is encoded into our culture. And now let's look at waltz. So waltz is that whole space of mindfulness, contemplation, right? So taking time to just sit and watch around you. Taking time to contemplate or reflect, right? And a lot of times that's really good, like writing on a journal, reading inspirational pieces, listening to inspirational music, watching thoughtful movies as opposed to, action, just simply action, right? And then taking some time, giving yourself credit. So the other, like as we are all doing, when there's a project coming up, we just go into total focus mode on that project. And then a lot of times we're so in that moment that we're always thinking of what's next. And we forget to give ourselves credit for what we have accomplished, right? So a lot of times it's just really good to either literally or virtually just bow to yourself and say, yeah, I've done this. I have accomplished this. And that's worth being inspired about. So our intention is I choose to find harmony within the contrasts as I seek to be inspired. And again, these are intentions that I've written connected to the 5 elements, and you may find a way of writing that intention that's unique to you. And I encourage that. Find the one, find some words that resonate with you even more as we go on this journey of living in more harmony through this dance of life. Okay, so now that you have some options, The big question for you is, what actions will you take? What accountability will you put into place? What transformational activities will you actually do? And that is the big question of the day. So carry on, start contemplating, reflecting, thinking about what you want to transform your life into. Thanks, and see you on the next time.